Welcome back to another episode of the Tile Money Podcast. My name is Luke Jackson Miller, your host, and it is my privilege to be the host of this podcast. Tile Money is strengthening the tile industry with our weekly and sometimes daily content that we're producing, conversations we're having with tile contractors and inside our Facebook group. And the only way to strengthen something is to get to the core of the industry, and that is the tile installer. You out there in the field, you're working every day installing these products. I want to strengthen your business so that we can strengthen the entire industry. Today we've got a little bit different style of a format. This is Friday, hashtag FFAF, Free for All Friday. What's up, Facebook user? I don't know your name. There is a way to get your name visible. Good to see you though. And this is a free-for-all, so if you have the link to join, no matter where you're watching this, you can actually join this just by using that link in the description. If you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, you should see that link in the description of today's video and just click on that StreamYard link. If you want to come in and talk tile, talk business, talk life, whatever you want to do, it's a free-for-all Friday. And we've got some good topics today. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being in here. This is going to be a fun conversation. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments and I will see them. I've been asking questions. Excuse me. And we got some good topics already. Oh, Bill, good to see you, Bill. Thanks for joining us. If you want to join and get on the podcast, we'd love to have you today. So this podcast is sponsored by HappyTileGuy.com. HappyTileGuy.com is where you can get your tile contractor websites built for you, professionally done. They are going up in price January 1st. So if you want to lock in the 2022 price, go over to HappyTileGuy.com and check that out right now. So to get this started, we had a chat going and Justin asked about setting up a retirement. And I think this is a great subject for contractors to set up a retirement fund and to, really get started. So I like where Justin's head is at with that. Bill, so what you want to do is if you're joining us inside the Facebook group, go up to the description of this and there should be a title and some description of the video. And then it's going to say join the link below. And then it'll be a StreamYard link. And you click on that link, it's going to take you outside of Facebook into your Chrome or Safari web browser. And then it'll put you in the studio here with me and we can have a conversation. And so I wanted to talk about what Justin's question was to get us started about this, setting up a retirement for, a self-employed contractor. And there's obviously a variety of ways to do this. We've talked about, investing in real estate before on this podcast. We've talked about different modules you can do. Obviously, you can put your money in the market. You can do all kinds of things with your money. But the number one, and that's going to be highly personable. I don't want to tell people what to do with their money, but the number one thing you got to do is have money. You got to have that money coming in. You got to have that money building, and you got to be thinking like this. And the easiest way to do this is just to start with a bank account called retirement bank account and start putting 2% of every single check, just 1%, 2%, 5%. And the reason I want you to just put a low number like that, a low percentage of every single check you collect, because I don't want it to be an issue. I want you to just say it's 1%, it's 2%, it's going there. I want you to get in the habit of putting money into that savings account. Once you have 5 figures, once you have $10,000 in that savings account, now it's up to you to go get some advice and speak to some financial advisors. But I need you to get in the habit of just putting 1% of every single check in that savings account. After that, maybe 5%, then next year, 10%. And once you watch it grow and once you start to think like this, you will see it grow. There's a book called Profit First for contractors, Sean Van Dyke. I interviewed Sean Van Dyke on this podcast a couple years ago. Profit First is a good book for this strategy. It tells you how to spread out your money and put percentages of every check in about, you can do 12 accounts. I think he has it up to 12 accounts. It was many accounts that you can make. And some people in the Tile Money University are doing this with about 3 to 4 accounts, that they've decided that's a comfortable amount for them. But he explains it in that book, Profit First. And then Sean Van Dyke wrote Profit First for Contractors. I highly recommend that book. And then another question Justin had was gauging markets, markets to work in. And if your current market is not good, should you move? I really like this question as well. This is a very personal question, though. And I understand a lot of people's reasons for not wanting to move around the country or stay in one spot. But if you find yourself maybe curious about moving, maybe you don't have anything tying you to an area and is flooded with competitors, maybe that is a really viable solution. I do want to caution everybody, though, when you're thinking about moving around the country, don't think that the move will necessarily change you or change your business or change your happiness level or change your profitability, right? Even if you are you feel like it's your area, I want you to reflect and take yourself out of the equation, take your emotions out of it and say, is there money in this area? I remember the first interview I did with Ron Nash. He gave a great illustration. It's simple, it's to the point. He said, are there luxury car dealers in your area? If there's a luxury car dealer, BMW, Mercedes, even bigger, right? Lamborghini, there's money there, right? There's money there. There's obviously money there. And if that's where you're working, then the issue is, well, why aren't you tapping into the same people who are buying Lamborghinis and buying high-end cars? And maybe they want to buy high-end tile as well. So I want you to think about this without emotions. That way you can make the best decision for you, because if it would disturb your family or disturb your way of life by moving, I don't think you should move just because you think it's going to fix your money problem. That's not the correct reason to move. But if you want to move and you want to change a pace, then I always say, hey, pick a spot that's known to be high dollar. Pick a spot, and the way to do that is to have conversations in the groups. Use Google. Here I live in Manatee County, which is just north of Sarasota County. Sarasota County is one of the wealthiest counties in the nation. Before I lived in Monterey County. Monterey County is one of the wealthiest counties in California. And I always live, I don't live on the beach. I don't live right there, but I'm within driving distance to the beach. I'm within driving distance to really nice job sites that I would want to work at. And so think strategically like that. There's also a lot of value in not only, if you're not a city person, there's a lot of value in smaller markets, like almost like country, rural areas, mid-America, maybe up in like a really resort type area. There's going to be a lot more opportunity for you in those type of markets than you might think. I always tell people, hey, look, I've lived in New York City. I've lived in Oakland, California. I've lived in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, where there's 3,000 people. Guess what? The plumbers and the electricians and the contractors in the middle of nowhere were charging about 10% less than the California and the New York contractors were. And their overhead, their cost of living was about a third or even a fourth of what it would be on the coast in a big city. So there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of markets out there. And I would definitely say dig into it, and if you want to talk to me off the record or come on the podcast and talk to me about moving, feel free to do that. I've moved around quite a bit in my life. And I've seen different markets. It's kind of one of the unique strengths that I think I have. And really one of the strengths that I received as an apprentice and as a tile installer, because I really saw different ways of doing things. All right. So then, so traveling for work was another conversation, just traveling. So traveling for work, it's going to, I like Malcolm Campbell. He says, I'm like a rock star, I'm just traveling all around, but he'll tell you, he's the first one to tell you that the lifestyle, it wears on you, it gets tiring. And that's what Michael said here in this chat. He said he went on the road a few summers back and, the deadlines were nightmares to keep up, living in cheap hotels, too much work. And so he found out that it wasn't for him. And sometimes you just got to try things, right? Sometimes you want to try things to see if it's a good fit for you. I highly recommend that as well. Now, Megan, this is a good question Megan had. She said she wants to talk about how business owners manage their businesses differently with mental health obstacles such as ADHD. And we all run, she says, I don't run myself the same as others. And while my way benefits me, it wouldn't benefit others, and so on. And, so this is a great conversation to have, because we're all going to have different schedules, different obstacles, maybe some mental health obstacles, like she said, maybe different types of obstacles with scheduling work, around family pressures, all this stuff. And the best thing to do, and I love talking about mental health, is, you're not going to, it's going to be very difficult to succeed no matter what you do. If your mental health isn't correct and your physical health isn't correct, it's really hard to excel in life without really keeping yourself in balance. As business owners, we really have to understand that to get ourselves, our minds, and our bodies in shape is really the first step to being a successful business owner. We've got our first, let's see if Joseph, are you listening there? You want to come in and talk to us? How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Doing good. What are you working on today?
Big old shower. Can y'all hear me all right? I keep moving my phone around because
Yeah.
I'm cutting in and out. Got horrible
A little
service.
bit. Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit, but what do you got there? It looks like a subway job.
It's 4x8 brick. Super thick stuff. I hate this stuff.
Nice.
A lot of cutting.
Yeah. You able to snap it on a snap cutter, a dry cutter, or?
As long as it's not over an inch.
Right. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. Well, I'll let you get back to work unless you had a question for me or a topic you want to talk about.
There's no good spot here, man.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in, and happy Friday.
I did, but I'm going to see if I can't go find some service, all right? You as well.
All right, brother. Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, we got David Sandana in here. David, you want to come on the show?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. How are you doing?
Good. I lost service, so I'm kind of leaning. I'm dropping one of my guys off right now, so as soon as he shuts the door, we'll be able to have a little bit more in-depth conversation without all the background noise.
Okay, just holler at me when you're ready.
Yep, I'll wave.
All right. So we got some guests coming in, and if you want to join us, use that link. I'm going to see if I can also send Bill the link here to join us if he wants to. I'll send it to you, Bill. I don't know if you're still watching, but I'll send it to your private messenger there on Facebook. All right, so let's check out some of the other questions, some of the other topics. How to keep quality high. Quality control was another topic we were talking about. How are we making sure that we're not downgrading our quality and we are using self-care to maintain our high quality standards at work? I love how you're tying in, and you're absolutely right here. If we're not feeling right and we're feeling ill or we're feeling stressed, right, and we're going to start just hating work because it's going to be that much more painful to do the work. So that's all the more reason to make sure you're in a good spot, mentally, healthy, and ready to work. And then you'll be able to maintain that quality higher. And one of the things that you can do if you're feeling stressed at work and you're feeling, like overwhelmed at times, is learn breath work and simple meditation at work. There's some simple tricks you can do. And I'm having Gianna on again here in January, I think early January, maybe February, to discuss. She has a whole series of this type of conversation happening at Coverings this year, in April 20th, I think it is, April 18th, right in there. in Orlando this year, and she's going to be running a series of these more mental health and holistic approach to, you know, getting your mind right. Mindfulness is really the topic. And I've interviewed her on this podcast before, and there's some breath work you can do, just like, you know, 8 breaths in, 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out, 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. This helps ground you. You know, maybe you need to take a quick walk, shout, do whatever you got to do, but learn some tricks to assist you to stay balanced. Because one thing we can do is just, you know, get mad at the tile and start throwing the tile and just like, I got to make it work, right? And then we're fighting it. The last thing you want to do as an installer is start fighting the tile and start fighting the work. Oftentimes it's better to take 30 minutes, walk away from it, come back at it, and then you're going to find it's so much easier. I do this even with computer work. You know, computer work, you think tile pisses you off. Wait until you do more computer work and digital work. It doesn't come natural for me, and I get so upset at the computer. Sometimes I want to throw the computer across the room. I know then it's time to take a break, and oftentimes I come back and the issue it's like it magically went away. So I would say really seek out some ways to check yourself throughout the day to keep yourself in a positive spot, because it's true. You know, one thing for me was once I started having pain, you know, it made me angry, and I had to learn different stretches, you know, take care of my body a little bit different, start exercising differently, and different things like that. And that helped me manage my pain. And then on the traveling topic, Justin said, what's a good travel distance radius to maintain and what's justified outside of that? So again, different strokes for different folks, but like me, when I was in California in San Luis Obispo area, it was a larger county and smaller towns. And so I would travel sometimes up to 90 minutes one way in my first year and a half. As I got busier and busier, I kept closing that circle in to the point where I didn't really travel past 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe in traffic. By my fourth year, I was down to like a 30-minute radius. So I had cut it by a third in 3 years. And so I recommend working as close to home as possible. It just makes sense. It makes dollars. You're going to save money, travel time. Of course, if that's not realistic for you, I know, like I said, I've lived in rural areas as well, but I really think that if you're in the city, if you're in an area where you can work close to home, ultimately attempt to work as close to home or as close to your office as possible. We got Bill on Hey, Bill, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you today?
Taking the day off. I've actually got a long weekend because we got a nor'easter blowing through here right now. Our first snowstorm of the year.
Oh, congratulations. How many inches are expected?
They're saying anywhere between 10 to 16 where I am.
Oh, damn. That's a big one.
That's pretty good size. Not bad at all.
Any snow on the ground now or no?
There's probably about 2 or 3 inches. It's supposed to go until tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
So,
okay. So you'll have a few days off. That's nice.
Yeah, it's about time. Been too damn busy.
Yeah? How busy are you?
Let's just say that if I could get away with it, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Actually, if my customers could get away with it, I wouldn't be sleeping.
Right. Yeah. And how long have you been in the trade, Bill?
This past July made 42 years.
42 years. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You've seen a lot of changes, a lot of different things. How long you been working for yourself?
Since 2002.
Okay, 20 years.
Yep. Yeah. The trade is completely different from what it was when I first came into it. I came in literally just before Wonderboard was first introduced.
Right.
So, I've been around a while.
Yeah.
I did a 5-year apprenticeship with the union from 1980 to 1985. I'm one of the old time mud mechanics. Not very much call for it anymore, except for shower pans. I refuse to do a foam pan.
Okay.
But other than that, the last real mud job I did was actually featured in Latacrete's steam room booklet on the mud side.
Nice.
Travelers Insurance Company in 2007, I think it was.
Okay. 2007.
That's the last real mud job that I did.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
So what materials are you going to now? What are you using now?
Mostly cement board. Most of my floor underlayments are all uncoupling membranes. I do a lot, almost exclusively with Latacrete, Stratomat and so forth. Stratomat XD, depending upon the flooring that I'm butting up to. I don't like foam board, so I'm still doing cement board and then using Hydroban or Hydroban XP for waterproofing, depending upon whether it's a shower or steam room.
Mm-hmm. Do you not like the foam boards either, or?
I don't trust them as far as I could throw them.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I can see somebody losing their balance and putting their shoulder into the wall, and causing some issues in that respect. Same thing with a point load on the floor.
Right.
In addition to that, at least with respect to the shower floors, as I just said on Tile Geeks this morning, when you're mudding your own pan, doesn't matter what shape the shower is. You could have a kidney-shaped shower, and you got a pan that's going to fit.
Right.
Not only that, but you don't have to worry about the drain being 4 inches off from where it's supposed to be, and then not being able to use the pan because of that, or having to modify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always going to fit. And one other very important pro to doing the mud work is that you make the money instead of the manufacturer.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, those are all good points. I like mud pans for those very same reasons, Bill. I really do. I got to say though, I like foam boards though, and I've even installed some foam pans. We did a couple foam pans in the last house I think I tiled in California, or a second or third to last anyway. And they were big pans, and we went with big tile over the shower pans. And I felt comfortable with it. I really did. But hey, it's like religion, right? You got to respect everybody's opinion on that for sure.
Oh, I agree. I've actually seen two contradicting videos with respect to shower pans. One was a video of a guy rocking back on his heels on top of ceramic mosaics that were installed over a shower pan and putting a dent in it and breaking the tiles loose.
Yeah.
Another one that I saw was down at CTEF when the foam pans were first introduced by Schluter, and Dave Gobus had a guy run over a shower pan with a forklift.
Yeah.
Didn't touch it.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So I mean, it definitely has its following.
Sure.
My own son swears by the foam board, the Hydroban board.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's an old dog, new tricks thing. I'll stick with cement board, and I'll stick with a mud pan. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do you mind if we bring on another guest and have a round table?
Absolutely.
We got David Sandana. How are you doing, David?
Hey, David.
How's it going, Bill? How's it going, Luke?
Good.
Yeah, I just listening to Bill talk about all these years he's been in the trade. Reminds me of a conversation I had this morning with a customer, and they're asking about schedule and how busy we are. And we got into the longevity of people that are in the trade, how many years it takes to learn to be effective, and then how people that are getting in aren't sticking to it long enough to replace the guys that are either getting ready to retire or have retired. So we have this big gap. And so I thought it was interesting to hear you've been in for 42 years, on your own for 20. And so I had a question about, if you have employees with you or if it's just you, and then what your experience has been over the years.
I'm on my own now. Basically, my son has a crew, 4 people. We were partners for a while, but I was kind of holding them back. Be quite honest with you. I'm a one trick pony. I'm all ceramic, and he was into everything, doing pre-finished hardwood, doing LVP, and all the rest of that. Um, and he decided that he wanted to try and do something a little bit more than what I was doing. So since he and our crew took off on me, I've been on my own, and I'm happy to be that way, because now most of the work that I'm doing is high custom work, and I don't have to push. I take the time to make sure it's right, and it's it's a 4.0 installation, and nobody's going to push me.
Yeah.
Bill, what's your best advice to younger contractors? You've been self-employed, 20 some years. Looking back, is there one thing you would have done differently, or one thing you did really right that you want to just share with the audience?
Well, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. Okay. I think that I'm a better ceramic tile installer because I have stuck with that, and I've stuck by it since day one. I mean, I grew up in the trade. I was 10 years old when I set my first tile in 1967. My father was building a new house. He was a contractor. My grandfather was a contractor before him. And when my father was building our house, he let me help him a couple of times. So, because I specialized, I was able to get good at that specialty. However, for somebody who's really looking to grow, I think it's a lot better if you diversify. My son had the right idea; he really did. So I mean that there's everybody is always going to need flooring. However, it is not always going to have to be ceramic. There are going to be times when, especially when recessions hit, when people are going to start using floorings that aren't quite as expensive. So there is a pro to diversity.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the one thing that I would have done different.
I like that. That's solid advice. Thank you, Bill. I tend to agree. Here's the funny thing. I'm like you. I've never installed vinyl. I've never installed wood. I've never installed carpet. I've done a little maintenance work, here and there, but I never as a businessman or formal, really. But I got into remodels, and I got into it later in my career, so I would sub out most of the work. And I did find an employee who, he could do pretty much everything remodel-wise, texture and paint and trim and finish carpentry. So then that started working well in that way. But once I diversified into remodeling the whole bathroom, it really did a lot for my bottom line and my top line, I guess, too. As far as a business. And David is a flooring contractor who does remodels as well, so he'd probably say the same thing, right, David?
Yeah, absolutely. We started out, when I started in I think 2002, I started working in this trade when Bill started his own business. So just a hair over 20 years ago was my first day on the job as a part-time installer for a guy. He's actually in here. He might not be on this podcast watching, but he's in the group. And that was a long time ago. And since then, we were able to grow and diversify. We've done I'll say literally every single interior finish you can do on the floor, wall, ceiling. Basically in these, we've worked in these big semi-truck pits on commercial stuff, doing diamond plate wainscoting. Pretty much anything that's come along commercially, we've done. Polished concrete, no terrazzo, epoxy toppings, all these things. So our skill sets overlap a lot. So we're not shy about making money. We're not gonna turn down a job because it's not our preferred line of work. But at the same time, if we're not going to do it proficiently and professionally and can guarantee what's going on, then we're not going to do that at all. And so being cautious is a good thing, but diversifying has definitely led us to a point where we have, you know, a huge amount of work to do. The labor pool's really diminished on what they're able to accomplish, and people are receptive, more receptive to you if you can be the only point of contact for an entire project. And I think they actually value you higher than if they would if you're just a tile guy, because just the
Right.
tile guy has to contact or has to be contacted by everybody else. And we were on that back end of communication for a lot of years. But then what happened is we as we started shifting, we became the first point of contact. So customers will get a hold of us at the beginning of the remodel process, and we actually plan through that. Work with the cabinet companies, uh, countertop companies. We do the scheduling. We get everything dialed in for them now, but we do an awful lot of tile as well too. So
Nice.
Good deal. Good deal. No, I strongly believe diversity is the key, because not everybody is going to want tile, and especially like David, what you're doing, where you're a one-stop shop. Um, I think that's going to be something that's really attractive to a lot of people, because then they only have one person they have to deal with. So I
well,
mean, it's basically like being a small general contractor. So I
and
completely
it
agree with what you're saying.
so part of the reason for what happened here, it was Washington, and they made you, if you were doing tile and hardwoods, they switched it to where you could only do one license wise, or you had to become a general contractor. So they started pushing people from being a specialty contractor to a general contractor if you want to do more than one surface. Otherwise, you're operating illegally. So they had the selection
Really?
process that wasn't beneficial. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of strange. It was probably, I don't know how many years ago it was. It's been probably 6 or 7 years when they went over to that. But
Where are you?
they made. I'm in Washington State.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, so they had switched the licensing requirements. So we had to make a choice to become a GC or just do just tile or just hardwood and or just soft goods. They had a couple categories under soft goods, but you couldn't do all of it legally without having a general contractor's license. So that gave us the push. And then with the years in the trade, I mean, I'm still working with the plumber that we worked with 20 years ago. So knowing all the contacts makes it easy to schedule them. They know you. You can hook them up with the customer. Get everything in line. We have an electrical contractor we work with pretty religiously. They don't take any new customers, but when we call, they get us on the schedule pretty quick, and they'll go out and they'll do a consultation. So it's nice to have the contacts, and then the customers benefit. So this one customer in particular, they had called the same contractor we use, which is it's a big electrical contractor, and they told them they weren't even taking any more estimates from homeowners. Well, I called them, and they were out there in 5 days, and they did a whole panel change out in 2 weeks. So that's the benefit of working with someone who has time in the trade and has established relationships, and that's where we find ourselves now.
Yeah. I'm up in Maine, and our area is exactly the opposite. Hi, Meg.
Hi.
Our area, you don't even need any kind of license at all to do any flooring, from carpeting to tile to vinyl to anything. In fact, there's one guy that I know next town over from me who back in, was it 06, 07, went to Home Depot, bought an MK101 wet saw and a tiling 1, 2, 3 book, and hung a shingle.
Mm.
Now, to be fair to this guy, all right, he really wanted to learn, and he stood behind his work. He made a lot of mistakes,
Mm.
but he always stood behind his work, and he went back and fixed them. There were times where he had to do entire rip outs and reinstallation, and he did it. I got to give him credit where credit's due, but that's not the way to start in the trade, much less start a company.
Well, this is
That's how it is in Idaho.
Yeah,
that's how it is in Idaho. No regulation whatsoever.
Yep, same here.
I was just going to $200
to the state. It's a couple $100 to the state, and I explained this to my clients. I was just doing it this morning. On my quotes is my license number, and I tell them you can look me up through the state. I'm licensed and insured and all that, but also my qualifications and my business page, because I tell them you can get just a random guy, and it's horrifying.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a problem. And Megan, welcome to the Friday show here. We've got a unique opportunity here. We've got Bill. He's been in the trade 40 plus years. David, 20 plus. Myself, 20 plus. How long have you been in the trade, Megan?
3
years. And she's a business owner. And the reality is I agree, Bill. It's always best. I mean, best to get formal training, best to get that full apprenticeship. But I talk to a lot of people throughout the country who say there isn't such a thing near me because, there's literally nobody installing tile. We're in such a small area, or we learned from them. We learned what we could. And then once we got online, we realized like Megan, I think can testify, like, they weren't teaching the right method, so you outgrow the teacher. You outgrow the teacher. You've got a great situation here. What's on your mind? What challenges are you going through right now that you would like to ask any of us, Megan?
Well, like with the regulation thing, that's one thing that is really irritating, and I just like that's something that how do we even fix that aside from going to the politicians themselves and saying, this is ridiculous. You really would have to find the one person that cares enough about the industry or, their job. And if you're getting paid to do your job as it is, why would you change it? So it's like, that's a hard part. The one thing that I've found is, I just totally lost my train of thought. I'm exhausted, but because I was trying to make it home for this thing. So
Can I add something to you?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
So if making a regulatory body to handle licensing for the state of Idaho, I think that would not start with a contractor complaint. I think that would be more towards the insurance company claims, because they're the people that are going to have the budget to really push this thing through and lobby it in order to get your licensing intact. And there's plenty of other places they could copy, take what's good, leave what's bad, and make it work for everybody. But I think if you have an insurance industry, because that's basically all we're doing is covering our own ass, basically. You have to have an insurance, you have to have a bond, you're supposed to have contracts in place, you're supposed to have lien waivers in place for any project over $1,000, or lien notices in place for projects over $1,000 in Washington State, any project. And in every one, it's actually a law. So most people don't do that because they just don't know. But the insurance companies, they're going to be able to push this if they have like high rates of claims and a bunch of shower failures, and they start losing a bunch of money. They're going to say, well, it's cheaper for us if we push on, Joe Regulator guy in the state Senate to push, make this thing through. They could form a regulatory body, but it's going to take a while. I don't think it would happen overnight. But I think it's mainly about dollars being lost and all that, and shower failures or flooring failures or injury claims. Those are the people that are going to push it through.
I agree. Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, I was going to say, I remembered what I was going to say earlier about the bad contractors that, like, for me, what Luke was saying originally, I started off with a bad contractor, and I set so many showers spot setting, and I'm not going to lie, this is the first time I've actually come out and just straight up said it. Like, I've set spot set showers out there in my first year because I did not know. And this guy, that's how he was doing it. But once I learned, I got the heck out of there, man. Like, I can't, the one thing that the younger generation needs to know is you can't have your name connected to those people in your community, because people do talk, and if they automatically see you with that person, because that's what, you know, was starting to happen to me. They're like, oh, you're with this guy. No, 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 no. So I got out of there and I got a different mentor. I set myself up and I got a different mentor that but it's kind of the same thing now. Is like I've transcended working for him, but he was actually the one that helped me get out of the subcontracting, get my own business, get on my own. But even him, you know, he's 20 years in, he doesn't really, he's been doing the same thing and he makes his money, he's happy with where he's at, versus me, I want to know everything, can't get enough. So it's like I am almost transcending where he's at. But he respectfully knows that he's my partner in the area, and so like we have conversations about that. He knows my position online and all that with the groups, and he's very accepting of me just pushing forward, and he's always been that support. And that was the most important thing for me, was having that 20-year vet understand how I learn, and then also understand that, you know what, I might grow past him and he has to be okay with that, but he still pushes me, because if I come down and I'm still not okay because I'm on my own, he's right there like, nah, girl, get it up, you know, like, come on, you know, pick yourself up, come work with me for a week. I got you. Let's regroup. And so those are the things that made it so much better in my area. When it comes to being a, you know, but I'm also a self-starter. I reached out. I'm doing all this on my own. You have to be, you know, you can't put it on anybody else either. So that's my little 2 cents.
I'll tell you what, anybody who's been in the trade for any length of time is going to tell you that at some point they were doing things that weren't exactly kosher, and then they learned the right way. You're talking about spot setting. I spot set showers with mastic.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So there, I mean,
because you don't know.
Exactly. And you know what? You know where I learned the most was around 2003. I joined John Bridges' forums, Tile Your World forums online, and he had a pros hangout there where people from all parts of the industry. That's actually where I met Dave Gobis. Mm-hmm. But people from all over the industry were in there, and I learned so much from that place. It was incredible. I mean, so many of the things that I was doing that I wasn't supposed to. And well, no, I'm not ashamed to admit it, because, like I said, anybody who's been in the trade for any amount of time has been there. All right,
everybody has.
It's all about it. It's about learning as you go. Yeah. You know,
and choosing to make the right decision once you realize that you've been doing it wrong. That's so important.
Yep. Exactly.
And all the mentors that I have, they will say, I was just scolded earlier today by one of my mentors. Like, they are really, they're like, no, did you do it wrong again? Well, shame on you. They're on top of it consistently.
Well, that's one thing that I forget where it was. I said it was either in Tile Geeks or Global Tile Posse, one of those groups back a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's a good thing about the information age, right, is that people, even if you're taught wrong, there are enough people around who are going to tell you, yeah, you're doing this wrong, but this is how you do it right. And they're willing to impart that information to you. Whereas, I mean, like when I was first coming up in the trade, the guys who trained me, they were fresh off the boat from Italy. I mean, they were all my grandfather, people that knew my grandfather and whatnot. And their favorite line was, "First I teach you, then I lose you." All right. And that was the thing. They were afraid to teach people too much, because then they're going to take their job later. Yeah. All right. I don't give a damn. Yeah. I've got 2 apprentices in the last 20 years that both have become contractors in their own right, and both of them are good contractors, and I'm proud of that. Yeah. And on top of that, they make me make my game better. Because if I'm not on top of my game, they're going to take my work. So they make me toe the line and refine my work to even a higher standard. So it does nothing but better the trade.
Yeah.
That is so important and well said that you just said that, because one of the hardest conversations that I had a couple months ago was with my mentor that brought me up in tile, and it was on his quality, because I just am online studying all the time. He is just that same, routine every day that he's been doing for 20 years, and he sets great tile. But there's just a lot of techniques and stuff that I'm learning that are brand new, that if he's not online and learning them, that he just wouldn't know. And so he's actually like, dude, you taught me something. And like, I had to have the conversation, like, I don't want to leave you behind. If I go up above your standard, I want to bring you up at that point with me. Like, we got to flip it around. And you brought me up the ladder. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to bring you up. If he actually, and I was crying and I was shaking, and he's like, dude, you teach me so much stuff. I'm just too much of a man to admit it. And he's like, I will tell you. And he sat there and he told me a couple of instances that I learned something on GTP or in Tile Money or something. And then I turned around and did it, and he didn't know. Or the products like Ardex, he didn't know about a lot of this stuff. And like, just to get it, just go get that instead of going to Home Depot. It's just a different store. That's the only thing, basically. Yep. So it's like those kinds of things when it comes to like the younger generation too, like, and then the mentors realizing that, you know what, they can learn also. And because I believe, like, don't ever leave any tile setter behind. Like, if I transcend you, I'm bringing you up now at that point, but you better be ready for it, because we're going somewhere,
There you go.
Everybody can teach everybody. From the apprentice who's only been in the trade for a couple of months, right on up to somebody like me who's been here for decades. All right. Everybody can teach everybody else. That's one. Yeah. That's one thing. I mean, nobody. The most dangerous person on the job is the guy who thinks he knows it all.
Yep.
And I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. I mean, I've learned quite a bit. I mean, I've even learned some stuff from my son, for crying out loud. So it is what it is. I mean, like I said, everybody can teach everybody.
Yeah. Somebody watching the stream here said our trade is getting cataloged and refined online. Bill mentioned after 20 years he found John Bridge forums, and after 20 years he realized he was doing some things wrong. And big shout out to John Bridge for being such a visionary and really utilizing the internet to build a community, and the effects of that are still being felt today, the positive impact on our industry as a trade. And it's awesome to, be working towards that same goal, with Tile Money, I feel like. And, so many of these, feelings that we have, the world changes so fast. Here's a comment that says, people bypass their apprenticeship in the trade. And, I can't say I disagree, but like we're talking, sometimes it's out of necessity, and sometimes it's just the way it is these days. I mean, people do go in and do things. And like Bill said, some of them are going to stand by their word and, tear things out and redo it and really stick to it and do it the best they can. And I'm a realist. I don't know if let me just run this by you. Like I always try to be a realist when it comes to these sorts of things, because everybody's at different levels with their buying power, with their needs. It's like, my parents, first of all, they're not going to call a tile contractor. They're not going to call anybody. But let's say somebody just a little bit higher than the food chain. They're going to call a tile contractor, but they're going to be that price shopper, right? And they're maybe going to get somebody who's only got 3 or 4 years of experience in their business, and they're going to be priced accordingly. And, they're not going to get maybe Bill or David or Luke to work in their home. So I'm a realist. Like, we need all levels of people learning and all levels of people contracting. Am I tracking here, guys? Like, am I out of line, or,
no, not at all. I mean, things have changed so much since I started in the trade as far as how people are taught. When I first started, I went a whole year before I ever even touched the notch trowel. That was a privilege.
Right.
That was absolutely a privilege that you had to earn.
Yeah.
If you didn't earn it, then you're going to stay with the rest of the grunts, either grouting or moving materials or cleaning up or patching mistakes or anything but actually setting tile. That was a privilege that you had to earn.
That's the way I was too.
I mean, people now that are coming into the trade, within a couple of weeks, they're setting tile.
Yeah.
First day.
Yeah, seriously.
First day.
Yep. If you're not setting tile, you're not making money for me. I don't need you on the job. That's the attitude. And that is, if you'll excuse me, that is piss poor. That really is piss poor. No offense to how you were brought in, Megan.
No, it's horrible. I don't agree with it because as a business owner now, and the fact that I'm on my own, I didn't realize how important it was to learn how to set up your job correctly or how to pack your truck correctly. Yep. Like those, just the little tiny little things that save you so much money. I have tools all over the place. Like I'm better at it now, but those little things that you learn, how to grout, how to mix your grout correctly. When you're grouting, you're realizing that there aren't any bumps and you're witnessing the tile that's been laid, but also you can hurt yourself. This is a dangerous game. I've had to go get stitches. I'm pretty sure 20 years, 40 years, 60 years of experience in this window, y'all have had some stitches. It's very important to learn how to maneuver around a job site even. And these young kids, they're like, oh, I want to cut tile. If you don't know even how to hold the tile, if you don't know about the tile, if you don't know if you cut it at a certain temperature, it'll snap and cut your arm. If you don't, you need time on the job site with a professional to experience those types of things that a professional cannot just sit down and give you all this advice in a 1-hour conversation. These are things that you have to be witnessing. It's muscle memory for your mind and your body to be on that job site. So it is absolutely crucial to take that time. For me, the guy I called him on a Friday. I started Monday. He's like, buy a trowel and I will teach you. You don't need any experience. He was so desperate. He did not even care. But I'm a weirdo, and I was so passionate that I did my own research and ended up just growing away from him. And now I see him at Home Depot, and he's always asking me why I have mud on a cart. So.
That's funny.
Back years ago, my father used to always say the better you do each step of the evolution, the easier the following steps are going to be, and the better that the finished product is going to be. And that starts right with, as you were just saying, loading the truck.
Yep.
Okay. The way you load the truck, the way you unload it, the way you set up your job, the way you clean the room. Everything, right?
Cleaning the room. Big deal.
Room, doing your underlayment. I mean, my son used to laugh at me because I would be so meticulous about cutting in my underlayments almost as good as I would cut in the finished floor. And I want everything to be as exact to where it should be as it can be, because in addition to it making my life easier, the homeowner or my customer, whoever, whether it's a homeowner or a general contractor, whoever it is going to see the time that I'm taking with it and how much. And that's more work that's going to be coming to me later on, right? So it can do nothing but help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say these lessons, for you contractors, even Megan, put this stuff into practice. By designing your own apprenticeship type school, right? I was brought up in this trade like Bill, where it was, I'm not sure if it was a full year, but it was at least half a year before I had a trawl in my hand. And even then it was under, strict direction. And then when we started grouting, I remember grouting, just spreading the grout with a floater, right? Just spreading it for like a year straight and not touching the sponge bucket. And once I had that down and I could stay in front of maybe 4 guys cleaning behind me, then all of a sudden my boss said, you're going to start cleaning. When we went to grout, he's like, you're not on the float today. You're on the bucket. And I hated it because I had gotten so comfortable on that one thing. But then
Right.
he stuck me on that sponge, and I was on that sponge for 6 to 12 months before he would let, and this is how he made me a well-rounded, and you got to dive deep on one thing, and then you add to it, and then you can widen out. But it's not always possible for everybody. And so, but the lesson learned is now that you're a business owner, now you can start implementing these things.
Yep. No. What if you remember back when we first started talking, I told you I went through a 5-year apprenticeship with the Bricklayers Union. At that time, the actual apprenticeship was only 3 years, but my father kept me on as an apprentice for another 2 years because I wasn't just learning how to do things. I was learning why they were done in such a fashion. All right. I was being put with several different installers. Different people had different ways of doing things. And I one time after work, I went in and I was talking to my dad and I was asking him, this guy does it like this guy does it like this. What's the right way to do it? And he says, the right way is the way that gets it done most expediently, gets it done right, and you feel comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. But from working with all these different people, I was able to basically create my own method. And so, something that I felt comfortable with. That was like a little bit of each person. All right. Each of the people that I learned under.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the professional musician who learned a little bit from Jimi Hendrix, learned a little bit from Chicago, learned a little bit from Grateful Dead, and then put together their own music. Same thing. Same exact thing.
That'd be a hell of a band there, Bill.
Friggin' right it would be.
Hey, I want to welcome Joseph. Joseph, how you doing, brother? Let's see. You got on mute. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Joseph,
my headphones are extremely sensitive. Yep.
How you doing, man?
Doing well. How are y'all doing?
Not bad.
Good.
Can I briefly add here that I have I don't have much time to be on here because I'm on a site now, but when I have my guys and new guys come in, it's one thing to tell them this is how you do it. It's another thing to give them the why behind the how. Yeah. So now they understand, like, this is why we're doing this and this is how it's done. So now they understand. And also try to figure out the best way of communicating with them. That way they can absorb that information. Because some people like to see it, some people like to hear it, some people like to do it. Some people need a combination of it. Exactly. So you got to get your teaching style. But I've been like you, where I started out day one. This is a short story, but my old boss, he set this tile floor, and then he tells me to clean out the grout joints, and he leaves me. But he leaves me with like this little tool. It was a carbide triangle. Yep. Right. So I'm like cleaning out these grout joints. That. I'm cleaning out these grout joints, and I look down and I'm like, well, shit, there's still mortar in there. So I grab a flat-headed screwdriver and I start going to town on these joints. Yeah. He comes back and I had literally scraped all the mortar between all the joints of all the tile. It was straight up and down vertical. And I was just vacuuming when he gets back. And the problem with it, he's like, well, I never seen him quite this clean before, but I should have been more clear on what I wanted you to do, Right. So that's important. And getting the information across, explaining the why behind the how, and then be patient, because it took me, I wiped down so much terracotta that I had, rashes up my arms out. I couldn't even put Vaseline on, and begging for rubber gloves. I was there with Luke doing the grouting for I don't know how long before I started cutting tile. And then I learned how to do that with an Oricon pony with a hose attached, so it wasn't really good. We never used cutting boards. And then it was just, you live and you learn. And now we have a good process. We try to create good habits and keep that going, because all those good habits are going to flow into all the little other aspects of your life. Exactly. If you have it's like making your bed in the morning time, right? You get up, you start that one task, and you just stay task oriented. Whereas if you just throw it on there, you're like, oh, it's good. And then you flick your shoes off and your socks are on the floor and your clothes are on the banister and you're walking downstairs and there's stuff everywhere. You have to keep it orderly, but develop your process, stick to it, and then grab a little bit from everybody. And you don't even have to say that's bad information. You just don't use it. If they give you the wrong stuff, don't use it. Don't offend, but don't use, because they might have something you can use. And so always try to be receptive to that. With that, I got to get running because I got to finish off this little bathroom, but I appreciate you having me on here.
Good to see you, David. Thanks for
Good
jumping
seeing
in,
you.
man.
Have a good one, guys. Gal.
What's on your mind, Joseph?
Well, I did have a question for everybody, and it might be a little ignorant. I'm not certain, but
No such thing.
I know it, right? I'm gonna run it past y'all. See, something that was on my mind. You know how often we get loans for businesses, and once you own a business, you will not ever stop getting that mail, right? I was in a pretty good position earlier this year to where I could have made things a lot better than I did, and I did not. But I was curious of what y'all thought about getting a loan for a year strictly for hiring helpers. Let's say you got a $20,000 loan for your business to ease the pain of hiring help. Because right now I'm losing a ton of jobs because I still work by myself.
You're talking to the wrong person as far as I'm concerned, because I still work by myself too. So
I would say I've never personally had employees, but I'm a businesswoman, so like I've done a lot of other stuff previously before Tile. My only word of advice: have you ever had employees before?
Yes, I've had many employees, and that's why I know how it goes both ways.
Yeah, the only input that I could possibly have, because I don't know anything other than that, would be if you haven't had employees, don't go get a loan to pay for employees, because you could just lose your ass, because a lot of people don't know how to run people like me. I can't have employees. I would totally spend that 20 grand in the whole wrong way. But if you've had employees, then that's a whole different thing. That was the only thing that I was going to ask.
Okay.
I do have to get out of here. I'm off to supply shop some more. I just wanted to pop in for a little bit, but I appreciate you guys.
Right on, Megan. Well, we
Good seeing
appreciate
you.
Hi,
having you.
Mario.
Nice to see. How you doing?
Nice to
Hey,
see you guys.
Mario.
But yeah, I'll catch the rest of this later.
Okay,
All
right
right.
on. Well, have a good day. Have a good evening.
You guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Want to
See you
welcome
later.
Mario Gonzalez. How you doing, brother?
Hey
How you
guys.
doing, man?
I've just been listening a little bit. I've been trying to prep this ceiling here because the homeowner wanted to add a ceiling to this.
I hate ceilings.
and we have normal drywall, so that scares me. So I'm probably gonna get some 8+9 and some sealant to get in the corners. It's not a steam shower, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I was talking to Mark Christensen about it last night, and he helped me out and gave me a little more confidence. I've done one before with 24x48s, and this will be my second one. And this tile is pretty big and thick, so it's kind of scary. I want to make sure my ceiling's prepped real well.
I'll tell you what, the biggest thing you want to make sure with tile that big, you make sure that ceiling is that subsurface is deadpan flat.
Yeah, that's what Mark was telling.
Otherwise, you're going to end up with a headache.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then right now,
Yeah,
I just put a level on it, and it's got like a little teeter-totter effect. So
I would float it.
I'm going to go ahead and have to float it flat, because Mark Christensen, he mentioned that too. He said, make sure it's super flat.
Throw some extra screws in there too, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. See, that's and then I went and bought some Megalite. These Megalite Rapid Set bags are $80 a piece, man.
Shut up.
Straight up at Emser Tile, $80. I figured out half and half it, so it doesn't go off.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
You know what I use for floating
what I'm
ceilings?
gonna do.
You know what I use for floating ceilings? It's a hell of a lot cheaper than $80 too. It's Latacrete 4XLT. It's a non-sag, so it's not going to come down on you, and it's easy to float, and it costs you what, about $18-$20 a bag?
Yeah, yep. The Megalite, the regular Megalite was, I think these were 50, 55 at Emser. But Mark Christensen, he uses all Mopay products, so he was telling me to use ultralight.
Yep.
Get it super flat, get on your scaffold, 2 people, and just smash the crap out of it and just move. And he said that thing will grab your bond. And then I got my little pop-up poles I'm going to have to put up there to hold them overnight and probably turn up the heat.
Yep.
Because it's cold out here.
Yeah. Somebody said they got the 4XLT Rapid, $38 at Floor and Decor.
Yeah, that's what the Rapid said.
4XLT? Okay.
Yeah. Just a regular 4XLT is about $20 a bag. And quite frankly, there's no need to do the Rapid. Just let it set overnight and work on the walls.
Right.
So what's your plan of action here? You're gonna 8 and 9 it and then float over that?
Seal the corners, yeah, float over that, and then go ahead and probably get one of those the little I call them shark tooth trials. Get something that's gonna really get something that's up there. The last one I did that was 24 by 48. It was a thin porcelain, so I felt confident sticking that one. This tile is really thick. But this is probably going to be my last one in Utah because I'm going to move over to Luke Miller's side of town and go. I'm gonna move my family over to Fort Myers, Florida, and go team up with Andy Shaw out there, and he's got a lot of work out there to do.
Cool, man. Yeah, there's going to be a ton of work here for many, many years. Andy's a great guy to learn from. Very, very knowledgeable. Good for you, brother. And we'll definitely.
Want to hear a funny story?
Yeah, go ahead.
My very first sealing I did when I worked for my old boss, it was a old house in Oxford. They had moved this house to this location, super rich lawyers, and it was like an old general captain's mansion that they had moved to this area, redid the entire thing except for the second floor. So all the studs were the original everything.
Right.
And I had reinforced the ceiling with screws. It had a little light cut out, got all the tile up on it. The rafters were so rotted out that after I got done, used Multimax light on the ceiling. After I got done with the whole thing, the entire ceiling, the sheetrock from the ceiling fell completely out. Tripled the screws all the way through it, but the wood was so rotten.
Oh, man.
We're going to put a few extra
I was so glad I was not under it. Not a good experience.
I was able to.
Go ahead, Mario.
I was able to get, since it's a ceiling and everything, I was able to go ahead and bid it at a pretty decent price. I figured it would take me 2 days, so I figured $400 a day plus material. So I had to get a couple pieces of 125 Schluter because it's thick, and then obviously the charge for the Megalite thin set.
Are you tiling the entire ceiling there, or just that above the shower?
Just above the shower.
Oh, sure.
They're gonna go ahead and bring their glass all the way to the ceiling when they're glass.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
So hopefully that glass will help hold it up too.
Yeah, this user says you wouldn't want to add weight. You don't want to add too much weight to the paper and the gypsum board. I kind of tend to agree with that. We had a couple other suggestions for you. He says, she says, split metal studs and screw to the side of the ceiling joints, install foam with the plates.
That's great for ceilings where you go in and all that's there is the framing. But if you go in and somebody's already put the sheetrock in, like what Mario's looking at right now, that's a different story.
Yeah,
I think they put some new studs in there because the general contractor that gave me this job, he does all the remodeling part, all the plumbing usually, and then just gives me a call to come bid it. So he at least got all new studs. They're not steel studs. Steel studs would probably be pretty nice.
Now,
but I don't know.
Can I say one more thing about it? As far as the person who said something about setting tile on sheetrock,
Yeah, that's
I can see it if you've got direct water contact, like you do with the walls.
right.
So long as you don't have a header going around the shower, or you don't have glass, and you said the glass is going to be going to the ceiling, so you may have an issue with that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go all the way to the ceiling, then the steam has a way to escape and go into a vent fan or out a window. All right, but if it's trapped in that shower, that person that made the comment about setting tile on the sheetrock has a very valid concern.
Is there a vent there above it? Is that a vent hole? No.
We
Or is
got
it just air?
little fart fan hole, window.
Yeah.
Um,
So the fart fan's in the shower, right? That'll
I
be
just recentered. Yeah. It's
okay.
outside the shower.
Oh, it's outside the shower.
Yeah.
It needs to be inside the shower because your shower will mold extremely fast because the moisture can't go anywhere.
They're gonna get the little vent window above the door. There'll be like this little flapper glass piece so they can release steam.
Oh, okay.
More likely, you've seen those before. Sometimes on steam showers.
Never seen it, but all right.
Yeah,
They'll have like a little flapper window, I guess.
That makes sense. That's a good
It'll
idea.
release the steam, and then the glass is just gonna be mounted basically to this little step up curve.
If that's just going to be above the door, that's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
You need to have that entire thing open. If they're not going to have a vent fan in the shower to get rid of the moisture in the air, they need to have that top open. Otherwise, JD's right. You're going to end up with a mold problem.
Should I recommend
really
the
fast.
homeowner not to do it? Probably.
Just a second. Just have the electrician put a second fart fan in.
Yeah.
$400 or $500.
That would take care of the problem.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's got to be inside here.
Inside the shower.
Inside the shower, have it wired to the light.
We can do that. Like
That light, you can jumper that light over to power that fart fan. So when they turn the light on, it's already pulling it out.
Well, they can
You don't
even
have
get a
to
light
worry about
fat fan
leaving it
combo.
running.
Yeah, they can even, they got
Yes.
light fat fan. They got light fan combos.
Yeah. That'd be cool. The area vent one, actually, since area vents got those really cool fart fans that Winnie's been posting up. We'll smash the roof, and then there's like a little area, and it makes it a little hidden. That'd be cool.
Yeah, fans. Stop getting me to say fart. Family show here. We got a family show here.
Thanks, JD, for that information. That's gonna make a big difference. So
I wanted to make sure we answer Joseph's question here, or I take a stab at it anyway.
Okay.
I would highly caution against taking a loan to pay for employees. What can you get an apprentice for? Or were you looking to get an installer or an apprentice?
I've tried to get people in my area to help partner with me to help take on this work. And currently everybody is completely booked up that I could partner with. And the other issue is the other folks, I mean, I know a whole lot of them, and I would not want to even eat lunch with them, to say the least.
That's the problem. That's the problem at times like this. If somebody's not busier than hell, you probably don't want anything to do with them because there's a reason for it.
So you're looking to hire probably an apprentice, maybe some 18-year-old younger person or older who wants to learn a new trade. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. And what I would like to do is what I did. What I did before was I had hired 4 people on, and I kept 2 of the 4. And that's kind of what, back then I did not have all the bills I did today whenever I was 24 years old. And I was able to fork it out. And I basically worked for free for almost an entire year to get myself to that position. And I had 2 great workers. They ended up going to work for Cleveland Construction. I'm actually working on Cleveland Road right now. And they got offered a job making $1,500 a week. I said, I'm sorry, y'all, I cannot compete with that.
Yep. Right.
Between 2, I said, no, so y'all go.
Yeah.
So I got burned on that, and I've had 2 other people again, and kept one of them for 2.5 years. And
Shoot,
I
nowadays,
know it all works out at the end, but it
So
takes
what
time.
what do you got to pay?
Yeah, it
What's a really attractive pay that would attract somebody really like just like your dream apprentice, right? What do you think that would be? 15 to 20 bucks an hour where you're at, or
Yes,
Ziggy, where are
that's
you?
pretty much what I paid. Mississippi.
Mississippi. Okay.
That's
So
what
let's
I
say you
pretty much
came
paid
out.
before was $15 an hour. Is what
Let's
it
say
came
you
out to
came
being
out with
$100 a day.
Yeah, so let's say you maybe raise that up a little bit, maybe attract somebody a little bit more mature or something like that. Maybe you're 17, 18 bucks an hour just to attract somebody that really is going to, find a family, find a family person, somebody with bills, right? Some young guy who just got married and just,
21,
they're pregnant.
22.
These are going to be your best apprentice because they
Yeah.
want to, they're thinking career. They're
They're
thinking
hungry.
long-term.
Yeah.
They're hungry. And let's just say it's going to cost your company your cost is 25 an hour. That's $1,000 a week, right? For that 40 hours weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So your cost for this person is $1,000 a week. Really, like Michael says here, raising your prices is really all you have to do. Don't think about taking the loan. If you want to cushion yourself, go ahead and since you have a lot of work, put, if you can come up with $4,000 to $6,000, you have 4 to 6 weeks of pay for this new apprentice, right? So I don't think you need that loan because are you collecting deposits? I would really recommend you collect deposits before you start and then, reoccurring checks throughout the job and just set your day rate appropriately and, raise your prices because it will add, the theory is eventually an apprentice will make you money, but for the first year or two, it's going to cost you money. And so you gotta double, like if you're charging $500 a day for yourself, think about charging, 900, 800, maybe 1,000 for the two of you, because it's, like you've experienced, it's going to cost you money. You don't want to take that money out of your pocket, but it just costs what it costs. I mean, business is expensive and
Don't think just about what their rate is going to be. Luke, you just said it perfectly. 800 or 1,000. 800 will cover your wages. All right. 1,000 is going to cover your having to go back and fix, something that they may screw up.
Yeah, and that happens.
I know.
Damn it!
No.
Why didn't you stop?
But I do collect a deposit, but probably not what everybody would like.
Yeah.
What I typically do whenever I start a job is I take out all materials. I figure up all the material cost, and they have to pay me for the material cost just for me to have them on the books. And I don't collect any money after that until at least one of the projects are completed. Like this one house, I did the whole house. So when I laid the 600 feet of floor, I collected that 600 feet of floor. Did 2 upstairs tubs, collected it. But I had all the set materials there on the job the day I started, and that was their down payment. Which it's always worked out for me, but
I do a third,
some other
and a
folks.
third. I do a third as a deposit.
What?
If you want to get on my calendar, you have to give me a third for the deposit. That will cover my materials. It'll cover some of my time. All right, 50% completion. I want another third. All right, now that's going to put me a little bit ahead. It'll put money in my pocket. All right, and at the completion of the project, I take the last third. That way, I'm always a little bit ahead in case they want to start playing games and whatnot. And as well as I do, there's always that customer right around the corner that's going to do that to you.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I always make sure I get paid for everything. When I complete at least one project before I start the next, I want that money in my hand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would encourage you highly to adapt something like Bill, a third right up front of the total price, and then as you go on, if the project is like several weeks, make sure that by the last check should be, in my opinion, no less than 30%, maybe 20%, maybe even 10%. I mean, people push this to wherever they're comfortable with, and certainly you have to find your comfort zone, right? But, it shouldn't be, 80% of the job is the final walkthrough check. I mean, that's just leaving too much on the line. It's not that they're not good for it. It's not that they're not going to pay you. It's just now when you're thinking about building a business, you got to have that. You got to have that income constantly coming in, And this is a good way to make sure that you don't have to get yourself in a situation where you feel like you need that loan. Looks like Mario just got his truck got in
He
an
just had
accident
an
without him.
accident.
I was just out here too, man, and I guess he lost control or something. And
Icy road.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. That sucks. Look at that.
looks like it's gonna take me a
Ouch.
little bit longer to get to Florida now. I'm gonna have to exit this.
Jeez.
Hey,
live.
Andy,
Later.
send a truck.
Oh man.
All right, Mario,
Talk to
take
you guys later.
All right. Sorry
All
for
right,
your troubles,
Mario.
man. Sorry about that.
That sucks.
What a bummer, man.
Yeah.
What a way to end your Friday.
No kidding.
So I like his comment of 50% because that's what I never like getting paid for the whole thing up front, because whenever it gets down to the end of the job, you find yourself dragging your feet.
Yep.
And that's why I don't like getting too much of it, because I will do it myself, just drag my feet, ready to get started on the next job and dwelling on it rather than finishing the project at hand.
Yep. No, everybody's got to do it the way they feel comfortable. I mean, there's nothing set in stone. There's the guy, one of my last employers used to get all the materials and 50% of the labor up front when the customer would sign the contract. I don't know how he got away with it, but he did. I mean, you think about it, that's probably about 60% of the job up front.
Mm-hmm.
I know a guy who said he's taking 100% up front now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's the demand on contractors is to the point where it's the Wild West, and never before, I mean, not never before, but periods of time throughout history like this, like 2022, when the demand for contractors is high. I mean, it's really time for us contractors, I feel like, to start, if we're good and we know it, you know, and you're good. I know you're good, Joseph. I know you're good, Bill. And if you're good and you know it, you know, you've got to think long term, and I know you put a lot of emphasis on the money, because I do too, and I feel you there, brother. I really do. Money is something that I highly respect and almost fear sometimes, and almost have this weird, you know, relationship with, right? But the thing you have to understand about charging enough for an apprentice, not, you know, that shouldn't be a loan. That shouldn't go out of your check. That needs to just be charged to the job, and it needs to be done with the intention. You need to get in the mindset that I need this apprentice, and to establish a long-term vision business here to service my clientele for many, many years. Because if I burn myself out, if it's just me and I'm done, it doesn't serve my clientele as well. And now certain people like Bill will just get to the point where they're like, it's me alone. But Joseph, I know you want to grow and get some help and kind of expand. So this is kind of a new way of thinking that you really need to adopt. I would start reading books and listening to audio podcasts on people who have scaled companies. You know, Michael here is giving a lot of nice comments. Thank you, Michael. He says we do, or I was going to highlight this comment. We're at about $4,000 a week for a team. So I'm assuming he means a two-man team, $4,000 a week. He's operating at probably 50 to 60% gross profit, because I would imagine it's costing his company $2,000, maybe a little more, maybe a little less to actually, you know, keep that team busy. But the company needs money as well. So you got to start thinking like Michael here is, you know, it costs a lot of money to do the thing, you know, to install the tile, to be in business in 2022. I don't care if we're tile installers or what we're doing, what business we're in. We're not the bad guys. Like, we didn't cause inflation. We didn't cause prices to go up. We're not the ones. Like, I'm down here in Florida. What's his name? Mario's moving to Florida. When I moved here 2 years ago, I could have bought a house for $250,000. That same house today is pushing 400. You know, in 2 years' time. You know, in 2 years' time. And the market I moved from before that was California, you know, and it was even more madness out there. So it's not.
I was in a lease purchase in Homestead for $135,000 in 1996.
How many acres?
It was a builder's quarter acre. $136,000. It was about 1,700 square foot home.
Yeah.
Right over by Metro Zoo.
Nice. Yeah. So it's just, It's adopting a new mindset. It's learning. It's just doing what others have done. And it's entirely possible in your area. You know, I know you're in a little bit of a depressed area, but I've spoken with you, and you've mentioned there's $1 million homes being built. And so whenever there's $1 million home being built, I mean, it's a big home. I mean, that's a good chunk of money. So I know people are spending money near you. And now what I want you to do, and what I'm hoping you to do, is really do like Megan, you know, just realize that you're breaking out of the mold. You're leading the pack in your area. If there's 20 tile contractors who are doing tile and flooring and whatnot, you want to, I feel like, just from the conversations and from the work I've seen, you're leading the pack and you're leading the way. You're engaged in conversations online. And so now you need to start thinking like that person. Imagine yourself in 5 years, 10 years with the business that you dreamed of. Everything that's wrong with the other businesses in your local area, everything that's wrong with shoddy work, everything that you want to be the opposite of. Imagine yourself in 10 years being that, and start acting like that today. Start implementing things and just start, you know, feeling like you're already there. And that way you can start to put these things into place. Does that make sense? Is that tracking for you?
It does.
What you need to do is switch your way of thinking.
Yeah.
Not that you have to compete with all these other people, but they have to compete with you.
Well, I was doing really good last year, and lost my helper, and we got a job at FedEx, and I'm done with FedEx, and I'm just now being able to actually get back to my full potential again.
Yep.
So now that I'm getting all this builder work back, I really need help again, helpers, and having 2 jobs was not didn't make a whole lot of money doing that, and I can promise you that. That was exhausting.
You won't.
It was murder. I don't ever suggest it.
Yeah, been there, done that. See, about, was it 2 years ago? I was so busy. I had 2 houses where I was doing 3 showers apiece, plus about 600-800 feet of tile, and another one where I was doing a steam room, and I was doing all of these at the same time. I was working one house from on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I was working the other house on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I was doing the steam room at nights and on Sunday. So yeah, you'll destroy yourself. You'll absolutely destroy yourself. And not only that, but you don't get nearly as much accomplished either.
That's what I found out the most. Yeah. Whenever I went back to doing tile, it was a dread. I'll say that. It hurt. All the homeowner just got in here, and I'm freezing my butt off. I'm gonna go get back in this warm house. All right.
Well, thanks for coming on, brother.
Good talking.
Have a good night. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.
Take it easy, man.
Good deal.
Well, then there was 2, Bill, and we've been at about 90 minutes, man. I'm really glad you hopped on, though, man. This has been a lot of fun. What are your thoughts? Some of your final thoughts or topics you'd like to discuss? I mean, I got some time here.
Well, there were a couple of things that were on my mind too while we were talking, and I can't remember what they were.
What are you doing this weekend? Maybe it'll come to you if we chit chat a bit.
This weekend? Well, tomorrow I'm more or less cleaning up from the storm.
Oh, that's right. Snow day.
Yeah. Sunday I'm working. I've got a house that I'm not too far away from where I was a couple of years ago. Right now I've got 3 projects that are ready for me.
Nice.
And 2 of them are people that I told I wouldn't be ready until the middle to the end of January, but they're ready early and they want me in there now. So I'm trying to accommodate them as best I can, but I'm not going to kill myself to do it. That was one of the points that I wanted to make to JD a little bit ago, is that right now I just turned 65 this year. Mm-hmm. So I don't have all that many years left on my knees here. Right. Otherwise, I probably would be looking to get another helper or another apprentice.
Right.
Most of the projects that I do are either multiple showers or large square footage. I've done several whole houses in plank tile over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And by myself, to do 2,500 feet of tile through 2 floors and a number of different rooms and so forth, by yourself, it's a task.
I'm surprised to hear you're taking on big floors like that.
Oh, I'll take on anything. I'm a tile whore. What can I say? No. No. If the project will pay me properly,
yeah,
I'll take it on.
yeah,
I prefer to do smaller projects that are more custom in
Sure.
nature.
Sure.
I don't know. I showed you my fish stream, didn't I?
Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah, stuff like that. I enjoy doing things that I know there aren't very many people that can do them. I don't know. Maybe it's an egotistical kind of thing. Who knows? But one way or another, that's still the type of work that I enjoy. But if somebody comes along with a larger project like that, I mean, that's one of the projects that I'm staring at. Is as soon as I'm done with the one I'm on right now, I've got a house that literally just got dropped in my lap with 4 showers, a tub, and about 800 feet of tile.
Mm-hmm.
And they want it done. They want it done by the middle of March.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to close on it. So
yeah,
we're going to be pushing, and we're going to be pushing
Yeah.
hard. There's going to be no lack of work this winter.
I believe that.
No,
Yeah,
right?
I don't think it's I mean, maybe there's, you call it egotistical. I mean, I think you just get to a certain point in your career and in your talent that, you want to do the work you want to do. And if the demand is there, I mean, why not pick and choose and be a little more picky, I always say, tile guys are the prima donnas of the construction trades. I don't know, but it gets to a certain point where, I mean, you deserve it, and you're somebody like that in my eyes.
No, I have no problem admitting that I am a prima donna. I always have been. And I always will be. It's going if it's my job, it's going to be done my way.
Yeah.
And if not, well, there are other tile guys out there. And, live long and prosper.
Yeah, and that's the way you got to look at it. And our trade is a finished trade. It's something that people pick apart, and we pick it apart probably worse than anybody, right? And so I think that attitude of like you just said, it's going to be done my way. It's going to be done right. At some point, people say, I'm going to supply, when you first get started in the trade, people want to supply, especially contractors love to do this. I'm going to supply all the materials. You just provide the labor. At some point in your career, you say, no, screw that. I'm using my materials. I'm buying them. You're paying me. I'm doing it my way. I'm using the grout I like. I'm using the thin set I like. I'm not leaving this to chance,
Yep. Absolutely. No, you can't leave anything to chance.
Right.
That's for sure.
Well, there's too many unknowns as is. I mean, you were talking earlier about we all develop our own way of doing things, and I'm of the mindset that we all take shortcuts at some level, in my opinion, and I don't even think it's a bad thing, right? Like we learn. Like I was in Dave Gobus's house, and Dave Gobus said, "You see this backsplash countertop?" He had a small countertop. He tiled with 4x4s and the backsplash, and he hard grouted the transition. He said, "Look, it's 20 years old. I hard grouted it, and hopefully I don't get in trouble here." But he said that, and he's like, "Do you know why? Do you know why I did it, or how I kept that going from cracking?" And he says, I put the appropriate backing in, I put screws in, it's not going anywhere, and it never cracks. So in other words, we all know areas that we can, I almost hate to say get away with, or, push the boundaries of things. And yeah, go ahead.
It's funny you talk about Dave Gobus, because I was just about to mention him myself.
Okay.
Years ago, when we were sitting around one night and we were arguing in John Bridges' forum,
Sure.
um, about the fact that with all the specifications that were coming out at that point, and the new methods that were coming out and so forth, that it would be next to impossible to follow every spec and still be able to make money on the job.
Right.
That every job would be a losing proposition.
Yeah.
And something Dave said that really struck me that night, that our job is about risk assessment.
Yes.
What you are willing to risk, based on your knowledge of how the installation goes together, based on your knowledge of how bad expansion and contraction is in your area, whether you're in a like me up north here in Maine, where we have extreme freeze thaw, and I mean we've got sub-zero temperatures during the wintertime, we've got 90 plus degree temperatures in the summer. All right. You have to take all that into account,
Yeah.
and decide for yourself what you've seen work in the past and what you feel will work for the installation that you're looking at.
I agree. And I think like if you came on my job, you could pick certain things about that you didn't like, or that, you know, might be slightly wrong by the book. And then I feel like, you know, maybe not in your case, but most people's cases, like I could visit a job and say, well, you skipped this step. And in my mind, the step you skipped is a big thing. And in your mind, the steps I skipped, or, you know, were a big deal. But based on, and you bring up a good point, weather, location, all these different things. I like in Tucson, we're talking about mastic earlier. In Tucson, we would mastic all of our tub hops. And
Yep.
I'm not promoting that, but on my second, third year apprenticeship, and, you know, you don't know any better, you're putting these mastic tub hops in because that's the way your boss said. But
Yep.
going back
over green board even.
yeah, exactly. Just over the green board.
Yep.
But thinking about it years later, I was like, well, heck, that was Tucson, Arizona, where there's zero humidity 90% of the year. And then they got the AC blasted all year long in the house. There's like, you know, 10% humidity in people's homes, if that. Here in Florida, I've got like a 45, 50% humidity in my home a lot of times. Like there's certain things that the natural elements are going to impact as well, you know? And
Yep.
so there's all these intricacies. And I like that, what Dave said though, you know, at the end of the day, you're evaluating the risk. And that's what business is. I mean, you go into business for yourself. I mean, Joseph's talking about hiring employees. I mean, it's a risk, you know, you got to evaluate these risks and, you know, come to the conclusion you're going to take the risk or you're not, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what risks are worth taking, and what ones that you should absolutely at all times stay away from.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. There's people who will not install tile outdoors. You know, there's people who, you know, just choose to, you know, refuse certain jobs because of the risk, you know.
mhm.
And, you know, it's smart, you know, if it's something that you're not comfortable with, certainly, you know, or you've gotten bit enough times, you know, certainly
Yeah.
just cut it out of the offering.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly it. You know, if it's something that you're not comfortable with, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't do it because it's going to bite you.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right, Bill. Well, this has been fun, man. I'm gonna get on with my evening here. John has a question here. How do we join the Tile Money classes? So Tile Money University, you can go to tilemoneyuniversity.com or just private message me, or I'll private message you, John, and we can talk about getting you signed up there. Here's a good comment here. You shouldn't just go into business and 1099 all your employees like subcontractors. I agree with this, and this is something actually Drake Van Hull and myself touched on this last Wednesday. That's going to be a video coming up here on Wednesdays. We do financial Wednesdays. We talk about different financial aspects, and we were talking about 1099s. And You know, it's very common. I was a 1099 apprentice at 17 years old. I've been self-employed in this industry my whole life, you know, misclassified employee for most of that time. And it's common. It's the way it is. But I've talked to many business owners who say that bit them in the long run, one way or another, you know. So
Up here in Maine, that's actually illegal. The Workers' Compensation Board up at the state capitol actually has something that you have to renew every year called a subcontractor determination.
Mm-hmm.
When they send you an 8-page questionnaire, and you have to fill it out to so that they can determine whether you are in fact a subcontractor or your boss is just trying to get away without having to pay workers' comp.
Right. Yeah, that's what it is. And now there's close to 90,000 new IRS agents, I think. So I wouldn't be pushing the limits in that regard.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's one risk I wouldn't want to be taking.
No, I don't mess with the IRS.
Yeah. All right, Bill. Well, I'm going to let you go, brother, and I'm going to hop off of here myself and go enjoy my evening. But this is fun. This is a new format we're doing, everybody. If you like this format, it's called Free for All Friday. I basically just provide the link in the description of the video, and anybody can just pop in here and talk tile. We're going to do this every single Friday if it's popular and if this works out. I think it's just a fun way to get to know the community. And look, we're talking to Bill from Maine, Joseph from Mississippi, David from Washington State. Megan came in from Idaho. So we really have a nice, well-rounded discussion, and I really enjoy this type of format. What did you think, Bill?
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we finally got you on the podcast, and you're welcome anytime. You're welcome anytime on the podcast.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy your evening, everyone. And remember, you're in business. So please, please, please remember to stay profitable out there. Talk to you later.